Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the stream. Oh, crap. Damn, I think I forgot to set the latency of my stream. Damn. I don't know if I can actually change it. Like, yo, what's up, Pizza? What's up, it's just for you. What's up, JD? Yeah, I have normal latency, which sucks. I keep forgetting this. I'm good, man. How are you? I'm just gonna put on some music. Yo, what's up, Lucius? Welcome to the stream. What is React for? Yeah, so that's a couple things that we're gonna talk about. Wrote out a couple things. We're not gonna follow this strictly, but we are gonna go over everything from start and then get some basics down. Obviously, I know React already, but I'm not super great with it. But I figured I'd do this kind of stream just to kind of like force myself to learn it, get better at it, and also educate you guys as much as possible. But we'll talk about that in just one sec. Yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate your vids. Thank you for taking time to make these vids. See, it took a doy yabab. I don't know how to pronounce that, but hopefully I got it right. Thank you so much for the awesome comment. Really appreciate it. Hook's cool. Geek 4001. Alright, so I like making bots and I don't have a Discord server. Oh, well, you should make one. Alright, so we're gonna get started on learning React together. I'm gonna try my best to explain everything as much as possible. So feel free to ask questions. There is kind of like a delay, so I will wait like a couple minutes in between and answer as much questions as I can. But please do ask questions though. The more questions you guys ask me, the more I can actually explain something. And there might be something that you might ask that I might not know the answer to, and we can just look it up together. I've tried to learn React, but it keeps changing so fast. Nowadays, everyone is using hooks, and I can't get my head around it. Yeah, that's true. There's so many different versions of React and Angular that stuff that you look from like 3 years ago on Stack Overflow probably isn't really relevant now. Yo, what's going on, Bomi? Alright, so for those who want to follow along, we're just going to install, and we're going to install Create React App. Now, this is a CLI tool that allows you to easily generate React applications. And there's another way you can set up a React app that's using Webpack. It's a lot more complex because Create React App does everything for you. The downside to Create React App is you can't really customize your Webpack configuration, unlike with Webpack. So it's really up to you. Personally, for me, I would prefer using Webpack. Okay, but just for the sake of simplicity, we're gonna use Create React App just to make things simple. Don't want to overwhelm so many people. So the very first thing that you want to do is install this tool. You're gonna install it globally, so do the -G flag. Okay, yo, welcome to the stream, Jack C. So if we install that, that should install globally. Alright, so we have Create React App. Now I have it already, so it just says updated, so it didn't take too long. But now if we want to create an actual React application, we're gonna use the npx command. Okay, don't worry so much about what npx is. What is Webpack? So Webpack is basically it's responsible for bundling your modules together. So for example, you might have all of this JavaScript, all of this TypeScript, for example, and Webpack takes care of bundling all that source code, and minifying it into just one file. Okay, so and also bundles CSS as well, and there's a whole lot of other things that it does too. But Webpack can also bundle node modules as well, so that way you don't have to like upload the entire project to like a different, like you don't have to like upload the entire folder, your entire React application source code to like, the VPS or something. You use Webpack, you bundle everything down into a compressed file, into just one file, minified, and then you just deploy that application. So I'll show you in just a sec when we create our app. Yo, Saren Mods, welcome back to the stream, man. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to Hype for donating $12 to the stream. Really appreciate it. And also want to give Zenobia a shout out to for donating. Really appreciate it. But anyway, so we're going to use the npx command to create our React application. Okay. You know Melly got coronavirus. Who's Melly? Why use React instead of something like jQuery and raw.js? Lots of people say nonsense words that I don't understand. And I just don't understand what's so special about it. Okay, so jQuery itself, people still use it because a lot of companies don't want to migrate. Okay, but back then jQuery was a necessity because the language of JavaScript was so there weren't a lot of like these built-in features back then, and so jQuery solved a lot of those problems back then. But now JavaScript itself, ES6, has a lot of these features that are in the core language, so it kind of just makes jQuery useless. But jQuery is still used in a lot of different projects for like cool animations and stuff. But React primarily is used for building front-end applications. So for example, I'm pretty sure this whole website was built in React. Okay, it makes building single-page applications very, very easily. Okay, and when I say single-page application, what that means is, for example, if I click on all of these routes, okay, notice how the refresh button is not refreshing. Okay, so everything, technically, so the way that the framework handles everything, it's just a bunch of content that's already loaded in the DOM, but React, the framework itself, well, there's a router that takes care of what it actually should show to the user based on the interaction between the client. Now, lots of people don't use jQuery, people use Vanilla.js. Yeah, I mean, you can use Vanilla.js to build out the website, but obviously, it is nice, but a lot of jobs always ask for React and stuff, especially if it's for a large application. You wouldn't want to use vanilla JavaScript and HTML and CSS to build out like an enterprise application. Responsive dynamically, well, React doesn't take care of the responsiveness. The CSS part is what takes care of that. But things like dynamic rendering, so for example, rendering lists dynamically, you'll fetch a lot of data from the backend server, and it's going to dynamically render as many, as much data as it needs to for that particular user. Wouldn't it theoretically increase load times initially since it has to load everything from the start? Well, I mean, that's debatable, I guess. That is debatable. I'm sure there has been some research done about it, but I think about it though. At some point, if you were to build something out from scratch with Vanilla.js or jQuery, at some point you're gonna have a lot of different components, a lot of different user interactions and stuff on the website. But anyways, let's get started. So let's just create our application. So npx create React app. We're gonna call this React Bootcamp. Okay, so this is gonna create. Do you need Node to use React? Not necessarily, because you can actually use the CDN. Okay, but with the CDN, you actually cannot bundle your applications, your Node modules together. Okay, so with Node.js, it makes things a lot better because you can use whatever you want, like whatever Node packages you want. You can install them and you can bundle all those things together into just one file. So I would highly recommend using Node. Alright, thanks. My phone is about to die, but if you keep the stream up, I can watch later. Yeah, no problem, man. Is React.js must before learning Gatsby? I don't know what Gatsby is. It's just for you. Thank you so much for donating, man. I really appreciate it. Again, you're a madman. Hello, how are you? Unfortunately, I can't be there today, so I have to go again, unfortunately, but I came to say hello, by the way. The message just disappeared. Where is it? Damn, I can't find it anymore. Hopefully delay. But yeah, thank you so much. It's just we really appreciate the donation. Yeah, man, let me know about the bot hosting. Let me know about it. I checked everything out and it was really dope. Is React.Js a must before learning Gatsby? Let me check real quick. I have not touched Gatsby. I've heard of it though. My friend told me about it. But Gatsby is a free and open source framework based on React that helps developers build blazing fast websites and applications. So it says it's based on React, but I don't think you necessarily need it. But obviously, I want to kind of go on the bandwagon and say it would best be it'd probably be best to learn React first. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm like looking at it right now. I don't think you probably need it though. You could, yeah, I don't think you need it. You probably don't need it. You could probably just learn it from scratch without any problem because it is based on React. So there might be some things that they'll talk about that might require you to know React. Like the documentation might expect you to know React, but you can just do some research and stuff. So we're gonna cd into our React Bootcamp directory, and let's just open up Visual Studio Code. Just kind of like go through the entire project structure. Okay. So let me zoom in a little bit. Damn, I really wish I had set the delay to lower because I can't interact with my chat as fast as possible. There's like, I don't even know, like a 30-second delay or something. I don't even know. Okay, anyways. So let's just go through the entire React project structure. Okay, so right off the bat, you'll see that we have 3 folders and then we have 4 other files. We're going to go through the basic ones first. Node modules, this is where all of your NPM packages are going to be saved. If you've ever used Node.js before, whenever you install dependencies, all those dependencies are saved inside the node modules folder. Okay, now if you install globally, it'll be installed in the it'll be saved in the global directory. But you can see there's a lot of stuff over here. Okay, so that's why generating a React application takes a hefty amount of time. But the nice thing about this is that when you use Create React App, it'll do all of this stuff for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that's the node modules folder. You never really have to worry so much about the node modules folder, so don't worry about that. Okay, next is the public folder. This is where all of our static assets are going to go. So if you ever have any images or any manifest, we have manifest.json file. Anything that's static typically should go inside the public folder. You see over here we have the index.html. Okay, this is going to be the main HTML file that React is going to use to render our application. Okay, so you can see we have like a favorite icon, we have index.html, we have the logo, another logo over here, we have a manifest.json file, which just has very standard information about our application. We have a robots.txt file. Okay, again, you don't have to worry so much about this. The only thing that you probably have to worry about is the index.html file, which we will visit this back again. Okay, but it's just a normal HTML file. But there's something special about this file though. So let's jump right in to before we jump into the source folder. Create React App generates getignore file, so that pretty much just prevents certain files from being staged when you are using version control. So if you were to stage certain files, it would ignore all these files for you, which is good. Okay. One thing that a lot of people, I should mention this, one thing that a lot of people always do by accident is they accidentally stage the node modules folder to Git. And then when they push their entire project to GitHub, you can see the node modules folder. You never want to do that. Okay. You always want to make sure you have your package.json file with all of your dependencies listed, all the information. Ignore the node modules folder and then push everything to GitHub without the node modules folder. And there's also README too. It shows you like some documentation on how to actually set up the dev server on your local machine. And we have a yarn.log file. Okay, nothing too crazy. All right, so now onto the actual structure of the application. So we're gonna go into index.js. Okay, so over here, this is the entry point of our entire application. Okay, we have import React, so we're importing the actual React module into the index.js file. Okay, likewise, we're importing React DOM. Okay, so I think React DOM, from what I've seen, React DOM actually runs on the React runs on a virtual DOM, and I'm guessing that's what React DOM is for. If we read a little bit about it, you can see React DOM. This package serves as the entry point to the DOM and serves server renders for React. It is intended to be paired with a generic React package, which is shipped as React. Okay, but I'm sure you guys have heard all about I'm sure you've heard all about React using a virtual DOM. Okay. Anyways, let's go back to the project again. All right, and so now over here we're just importing some CSS. Create React app gives you some basic CSS, nothing too crazy. Okay. What else? We have import app from app. Okay, so right over here we're importing this app.js file. Okay, now this app.js file is the main component that is generated with Create React App. Okay, we can also just replace this with our own stuff, so we're not going to worry so much about it for now. And then over here, we're importing a service worker. We're not going to worry so much about that. That's like out of the scope of this whole tutorial, so we're not going to worry so much about that. Okay, but service workers are pretty useful in a lot of situations. Okay, so let's just delete that, and we're just gonna go ahead and delete this. Okay. All right. So now inside here, okay, we're using the React DOM module, and we're calling the static render function or method. Okay, and over here, the important part that you need to understand is we're trying to render this app. This is our main app, right? We're trying to mount this app onto this root div over here. Yes, you can use Sass. Okay, but so what's going on here is we're basically importing our main component. Okay, we have one component, we're importing it, and we're basically saying, hey, look, I want you to render this main app, this main component, onto our HTML file with the ID of root. You can see right over here in index.html in the public folder, we have an ID called root. And IDs in HTML should be unique. Okay, classes are things that don't need to be unique, but the IDs typically need to be unique. Okay, and so over here we're mounting this app component onto this root div over here. Okay, so obviously I can change this. If I want to name this, something like main, I would have to change it over here. Okay, so let's just Control Z that and just leave that alone for now. All right, so now we've gone through the main entry point of the application, index.js. Okay, you're rarely ever gonna have to touch this file. Okay, when we need to, we'll actually go into this file, but we're really gonna never have to touch this file. Okay, welcome to the Stream Remy world. All right, so we also have service worker. Again, we don't have to worry about this. We're just going to delete the file. Okay, that's for something that's completely out of this whole, tutorial. We're going to get into that when we get to the more advanced things. Okay, and we also have, like I said, the index.css. We have app.css, so just a CSS file for the app component. And we also have setup test.js. So app.test.js as well as setup test.js. These are for testing. Okay, now React has their own testing library, which you can use it to actually do a lot of things to ensuring that your code that you write actually works. Okay, so again, we're not going to get into that. That's out of this whole bootcamp thing, but we will get into that at some point because I was looking into the testing library, and it's actually insane on what the testing library can do. There's a lot of things that you can check to make sure that your application is working. You can check to see if a component actually loaded after a certain condition. You can check a lot of different things with the testing library. Yeah. Yep, that's right. And that's what the React DOM module is for. Okay, React, we're using that to create the virtual DOM and then render it on there. Okay, but yeah, so we don't really need to worry about setup test.js. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of app.test.js. Like I said, just starting out, you don't really have to worry so much about all of these things. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that. And now let's actually just run this application, and let's just see what the application looks like. So if I were to go into my terminal, if I do, I think the script is, and the package.json file has these certain scripts. So if you want to start your app in developer mode, so it'll start up a Webpack dev server, you'll just run npm start or npm run start. If you want to build your application, so when you're ready to build your application into a bunch of static assets, static files, ready for production, you would use npm run build. If you want to test your application, you would use npm run test and then eject. I'm not sure what eject does. never had to use it. Okay. Alright, so hopefully it's npm run start. Okay, there we go. So it should take a little bit of time to load up for the very first time. I'll be right back real quick. Alright, sorry about that. Just had to go AFK. Okay, but you can see that we have our React application right over here. Pretty cool stuff. We have the logo, we have some sample text. That's pretty much it. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and exit that, and let's just go ahead and just delete everything in here. Okay. We're just going to go ahead and start from scratch. So obviously over here we have our simple function component, okay, function app. Okay, and down over here on line 11, we're just exporting the app so that the index.js file can require it. Okay, so a common pattern whenever you're starting out, you typically have one main component that holds everything together. Okay, we're gonna eventually at some point touch React Router, but we're just gonna start with some basic things. So right now, if I wanted to just render, an h1 tag and say hello world, I can do that. We'll get rid of this logo, so we're not really using it. Yo, welcome to the stream, Glitch Zero. And you can see right over here, the nice thing about the Webpack dev server is that it automatically updates whenever I save. So for example, if I want to change, this to hello world Anson, it's going to auto update, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that makes development much more easier and much more faster. Alright, so we can just write out a lot of simple HTML. So you'd probably think, if I can just do this div h1 hello world and then, put like a simple list, an unordered list inside this function app component, right? Let's do list element, I don't know what to call this, tasks or something like that. And then if we were to check the output, you'd see tasks, right? And of course, we can continue to write all, HTML that we wanted to. Okay, but you're probably wondering, what's the point of this framework then? Okay, well, one of the things that this framework solves is keeping all of your components separate in different files, and we can just import that component and then render that dynamically to the DOM. Okay? So for example, if I want, I can go ahead and just scrap all this, and I'll just delete that for now. Okay, so we have our main component, function app. Okay, so this is the name of our component, and we're exporting app. Now, inside this function, there is this return function, or this return keyword, and we're trying to basically return our HTML so that React can render it onto the DOM. Okay, now, inside these parentheses, we're basically returning the entire HTML that we want to write. So for example, if I wanted to do again, hello world, okay, this would basically be returned and then it would be mounted onto the DOM. Okay, so just wanted to go over that because I completely missed that. Now, one thing that I should also mention is that this seems pretty weird for a lot of you guys because we're inside a JavaScript file, okay, but we have HTML inside JavaScript. Usually it's the other way around. Usually you have JavaScript inside HTML. You have your HTML file, and then you create a script tag, and then you just have your custom JavaScript in there. Okay, but this is kind of weird, and you know, even though it might be tempted to say that, yes, this is JavaScript, it technically isn't by definition. This is called JSX, which stands for JavaScript extension. And it pretty much allows you to write, you know, HTML-like syntax inside JavaScript. So there are a couple of things that are a little bit different with the HTML inside the JSX file. And you can also see over here, and this is Babel JavaScript, okay? But for example, if I wanted to give this div a class, I would have to do, let me go ahead and go inside app.css, and let's just create a simple color class, and we'll just do white, or color, we'll do pink, font weights, we'll do bold. So I'm creating a simple class inside app.css, and we have it imported already. So if I wanted to give this div a class, I would have to do class name instead, and then I would have to reference the actual class name, which is color. Now if I save, that should update. Yep, we have a pink color. Okay, so in normal HTML it would just be class, but in JSX it is class name. If you didn't use JSX, it looks nasty. Does it? I've never gone that far in React to know, so I wouldn't personally know. But okay, so yeah, like I said before, what's the point of having React if we can just write basic HTML stuff? Like I can create a nav inside here, right? I can create an unordered list and then set that unordered list with a bunch of navigation links. So for example, home. Okay, we can do list element about. Okay, we can also do, I don't know, contact, and if we can just render this to the DOM. Well, what's the point of this, right? What's the point of React if we can just do this? Like I said earlier, React introduces, you know, well, not React itself, but these JavaScript frameworks introduce the concept of separating things into different components. So for example, this, if we were to create a navigation bar, we can have our own individual component of that navigation bar, and then we can reuse that component over and over and over again, right? And if you were to write out an entire website in just plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you would have to create a bunch of different .html files for all your pages. And every single one of your pages, you would have to copy and paste the same nav bar over and over and over again. With these front-end frameworks, React, Vue, Angular, you create a component that represents the navigation bar. And then you import that component, and then you just use it inside the main component that you want to. So that saves you from having to just copy and paste all those things again. You can have the actual logic of your application, of your component, separated from everything else, okay? All the JavaScript, all the CSS, it stays separate into its own corresponding component. I used Babel once to take a look at what it looked like, just out of curiosity. Yeah, I really like Babel. I started learning how to use it, and it's really awesome being able to use the import and stuff. I really like it. But Babel's nice though, I really like it. Or use PHP, yeah. Okay. So now, for example, let's just create a simple component. So let's say if I want to create a simple nav bar, okay? Let's just leave this alone for now. Let's go inside source. And what I personally like to do is I like to create a new folder called components. So this folder itself will be responsible for storing all of our components, okay? It's just a regular folder. You can name this whatever you want, whatever helps you best remember what that folder corresponds to. And I personally like to create different folders that correspond to different components. So for example, if I wanted to create a navigation bar component, I would name this folder something like navigation bar or navigation. And this folder itself is going to have a file. You can call it index.js or .jsx, doesn't really matter too much, but we're just going to leave it at index.js. Okay. And with every component, we need to import React from React. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and just kind of like, you can see right over here, we have a simple structure. Okay, we can just literally follow the exact structure. So there's two types of components. You can use a functional component, or you can use a class-based component. We're just going to stick with functional components for now. My goal is to go through the entire React documentation and just go through literally just everything. So just go through every single thing. Okay, so let's just create a simple component. And I'm going to do export default function. and we're going to call this navigation. Okay, so we have a simple navigation component, and the export default allows us to export this component as a default. So that means when we import it, we don't need to have the curly braces to actually import one specific thing. It's just this entire thing itself. So we're going to go ahead and have the return function. Okay, and this is going to return our component over here with our logic. And you basically use routes to render them, right? Well, that depends. It really depends on what you need routes for. Okay, because right now, for example, if I wanted to have my navigation logic, okay, I could technically just do this. Personally, I don't like just, I prefer returning divs, but it's all up to you. Okay, and I can go ahead and, right over here, I can import navigation from, and we're going to import it with the relative path. So we're going to reference components, navigation, and that's it. Okay, it's going to look for the navigation component inside this navigation folder. Okay, but for routes, so if you have an application that has different pages, then you would use a router to render them. But if you want to render a specific component, you don't necessarily need the router. For example, I can render my navigation component right over here. So I'm referencing the same exact name that I imported the navigation component. Okay, and it's kind of like you would render it kind of like using an HTML tag. The less than sign, right? The angle brackets, so navigation, the name of the component. You can either do greater than sign and then leave it like this. Okay, but for shorthand, you can just do a / greater than symbol. And that would just be a shorthand. And you can see over here, right? Over here, I have my navigation component that is being imported from this file over here. Okay. And if I actually inspect the HTML, you can kind of see what's going on. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. So you can see we have all of our HTML from the public folder. Yes, different pages. That's correct. Yes, and the pages are basically your components. Okay, and over here, if we look at the body, you can see we have our div ID root. Remember that root ID that we had in the index.html file over here? Okay, like I said earlier, React will take care of mounting the app.js component, the main component. Okay, well, I should say React DOM, because again, it's on the virtual DOM. Okay, it will take care of mounting that onto right over this div over here. Of course, like I said, if I change the name of this and if I restart my application, you're going to see that everything is just going to disappear. See, it says target container is not a DOM element because I changed it. So obviously, I would have to change that right over here. I would have to change this to whatever I change this to main. And then it will work. So if I save it, you're going to see that we're back to where we have. And you're going to see in the HTML, inside the div, we have the ID as main. But let's just leave that alone for now. There's no really need to change it. Okay, but what I want to show is right over here. Inside this div root, we have all of our HTML. See how that works? Is it hard to use Bootstrap with React? Not really. Obviously, you would have to... it is a little bit different, of course, but it's not super complicated. Because there's a UI library for Bootstrap dedicated for React. So you just install it. And if we have some time, we might install Bootstrap later on. Yeah, you can. It's not that difficult to integrate a UI library. Okay, so that's just a simple example of creating a component and then exporting it so that other files can use it, and then import it. Okay, and I can continue creating as many components as I want. So if I want to create, let's say, a simple form component, like a register form. Okay, and I'll just create index.js. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a class-based component. So we're going to import React, and we're going to import component from the React module. Okay, so I'm going to do export default. So we're just going to export our component. We're going to use a class-based component. I'm going to call this register form component extends component. Okay, So for those that don't know, oh yeah, definitely. So for those that don't know what's going on over here, right now I'm using a class-based component. So if you want to use a class-based component, you need to import the component class from the React module, and that's what I'm doing over here. Okay, and we then need to extend the component class. Okay, when you extend the class, you automatically inherit all of the public fields, all of the methods and events. Okay, if it's an event emitter. Now right over here, obviously register form component is our superclass of component. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a constructor, okay? And inside the constructor, typically, if you have a component that can take in props, which we'll get into in just a little bit, you can pass in some props. Okay, you can also do other things in the constructor, such as I think setting the state, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm not too sure about that yet, but we're gonna look at the documentation, like I said, because I'm still learning myself. Okay. But now we're going to ignore the constructor for now, but this is going to be used for setting the state, updating props. Okay, so now we're going to implement the render method. Okay, now render method is going to be used for literally just rendering what we want. Okay, what is the difference between class-based component and functional? Geek 4001, that's a very good question that I don't know, but we're going to find out right now. What is the difference between functional and class components? Let's see this Medium article. Oh, we have to sign in. How wonderful. Let's see if Stack Overflow. Oh, Stack Overflow, always reliable. Never need to sign in, never need to pay for anything. Okay, so it says, too long didn't read. You'll have to use class to extend blah, blah. Functional, stateless components. A functional component is basically a JavaScript function which returns a React element. It accepts props as arguments and returns valid JSX. Class, stateful components. Class components are more complex than functional components, including constructors. I don't think this is fully true because I'm pretty sure functional components can also have state. So I really don't think this answer itself is credible because functional components can have state, right? I guess the main difference is just the way state and hooks work. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I do know for a fact functional components can have state, so that itself is completely wrong, stateless. Correct me if I'm wrong. Functional components, these components are stateless components and does not have React lifecycle methods. I mean, I guess that is true. I mean, I guess that can somewhat be true. I guess it really depends on implementation. If you choose to use functional components, you don't really have to worry so much about state. But if you use a class component, I guess the main reason why you would use a class component is if you have a component that requires a lot of state. So I guess that's a good reason to debate on whether you want to use, a functional component or a class-based component. This was from 2000. Oh, was it? Oh wow, yeah. I was about to say like this was so old. Like I didn't even realize that was from 2016. I thought it was from, like 2019. There should be a lot of other. Let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of articles, but we have to sign in for some reason, and that's not something I want to do. But yeah, it was weird because yesterday on stream we were playing around with uState with functional components, so the answer was definitely outdated. So, oh, this is a Dev2 article. Class component. Before React hooks, when we want to create a dynamic component, we have to create a class component and use lifecycle methods to change states to make it reusable and encapsulate. Okay, that's true. Okay, by creating an ESX class, the class needs to extend React component, which is what we just did over here, right? We extended the component class that's from the React module. And then we have to implement the render method, which will return the JSX markup. Also, we need to assign the initial state in the construct with this state. As an example here, we create a simple clock component, and just go ahead and talk about the lifecycle hooks with yeah, I guess it really depends. I guess it really depends on use cases, But now that functional supports state with a use effect and use state, well, use effect, I guess there really isn't a reason why to use classes. But one can debate. If you're more of a fan of classes, then these classes. But yeah, so over here, let's see, we can set the state. If I remember correctly, there's the state object, this dot state, and we can set state. So if I want to set my name, or let's just say value of the form, for example, will just be Anson. Okay, and over here, I can render a simple h1, and I think I can render this dot value, I think. Oh, we have to call the superclasses constructor. Okay, let me actually see. It's been a while since I've touched this, but I know the documentation does have a good example, so we can always just look at the documentation. When in doubt, always look at documentation. They always have good examples over here. Yeah, so if we don't really need state, we can just use the render method. But there should be an example on using props or using the setting the state in the constructor. Oh, right over here, state and lifecycle. Okay, let's see. I want to see where we can. There we go. This dot state equals an object. Okay, that's the state object itself. Okay, and this is basically going to keep track of the state of our component, and the state itself can change over time. I'm tired. I have to get some sleep. I'll rewatch live stream in the morning. Take care. Yeah, well, no problem, man. Thank you so much for checking out the stream. Really appreciate it. Have a good night. Okay, and I'm referencing, I think I'm referencing the state's value correctly, this dot value. So hopefully that won't be a problem. So now let me go ahead and let's go inside. Well, we would need like kind of like React router for that. So for now, what I'll do is, let's see. Okay, I guess I'll install React router right now. There's really no point, because React router should be something that's part of React, but it's not. I mean, you have to install the external library, but we'll just install it and just put it in. Because I know Angular itself has a built-in router that you can opt into if you need it. But routing is very important in designing applications, if you have an application that requires a lot of routes. But it is good to understand it, though. So I'll install React router DOM real quick. React router DOM. And the React router will be responsible for routing components to the dedicated path. So taking components and rendering it at the correct path that we want it to. Yeah, documentation. Woo, yeah. When in doubt, refer to the docs. Yo, we got a lot to learn, man. We got a whole lot to learn. It's been so long since I've touched React. I got a whole lot to learn. Dynamic rendering in React, conditionally rendering in React, updating state, registering events. I've done these things in the past before, but this is just going to serve as a refresher. I think we've gotten all three of these things down already, so we just really need to start from number 4. So I've written out some things. I think we have a good understanding of components. Okay, we just have to start working with like the more functional features like conditional rendering, handling events, lists, form hooks, and state. Yeah, this is a pretty long time for installing React Router DOM. I think we're almost done at some point installing I write yarn add React and it's done in 9.7 seconds. Yeah, I might honestly I'm probably gonna switch to yarn for some reason. I don't know why this is taking so long to install. Oh well, we're making progress. Yo, Dark Voice, what's up, man? Welcome to the stream. Yo, what is with this React Router DOM? I installed this yesterday. It didn't take. Wow, it took 180 seconds to install React Router DOM. Wow, that is crazy. I don't even know how much usage my CPU is using. Damn, look at this. Chrome is using 73%. I guess now's a good reason to actually get 32 gigs of RAM. That is some insane stuff going on over there. Anyways, so we have React Router DOM installed, and you're probably wondering, well, what exactly is React Router for? Okay, so let's say, for example, you have a whole bunch of different web pages. You have index.html, about.html, contact.html. When you want to actually access those pages, in older websites, like back in before these frameworks came out, when you click on it, it will basically route you to another URL. Okay, and that is basically called server-sided routing, where you're making that request on the server side. Now with React Router, we can actually make something called client-sided requests. So we don't actually have to refresh the application in order to go to the next page, as I was showing before. And even in this website over here, the React Router documentation, you can see that this is a good example of routing. You can see that if I click over here, it's going to take me to a different component on the website. Okay, if I click over here, it's going to take me to a different page in the website. Okay, before, without the router, we would have to make a bunch of different server-side requests. Okay, so React Router takes advantage of doing a lot of things for us, and we're going to dive deep into it. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other things that React Router can do for us, but at the most basic level, think of it like it takes the component and it maps it to a route. So when you access that route, it's going to show that component. That's just the easiest way that you can think about it. Okay, so we have React Router, and let's see, we have to import all of this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just import that. So let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's go inside app.js, and let's set up a router over here. So we have the router installed already. Give me one sec. Okay, so let's go ahead and import a couple of stuff real quick. So we're going to import browser router as router. We're going to import, let's see, I think we'll do that just for now, and we'll also import route. Okay, I don't want to use switch just yet. And what's going on over here? Oh, from React Router DOM. Okay, awesome. And a very simple example would just be having the router tag. Okay, and inside here, this is where we want to register our routes. So I'm not using Webpack. Well, I'm using the Create React app today. So hopefully we don't get any issues with routing. But for example, if I want to route, let's say if I have the navigation component, or not navigation, let's actually create a new component first. So I want to create a page. So I'll call this, let's see, I'm going to keep it in a separate folder. We'll call this pages. Okay. I want to separate, components from pages. I don't want to keep everything in just, one folder, because, like I said, if we were to have a very large application, the entire folder structure would look really, really ugly. So let's create a new file called home. Okay, and let's just create an index.js file. And we're just going to go ahead and use a simple function component, because we don't really need much state. Actually, no, we'll use a class-based component. Let's do that instead. So let me move this over here. Import React, and then comma component. So you always need to import React. Okay. Export default. Make this component available outside of this file. Class home page extends component. And obviously I'm calling this a page, but technically the page itself is a component. Okay, and that component, that page, is going to have a bunch of other components, nest components, okay? And those other components might have other components too. So we can always nest components inside other components. So let's go ahead and just do a simple render. And let's just return a simple div. And like I said, I don't have any UI library installed, but we could easily integrate Bootstrap or Material Angular into this project. But we'll save that for later. Let's just do a simple home page. And if I save, let me just put some semicolons. Okay, I'm not using a linter. I should be using a linter, but don't want to worry so much about that. Okay, so now we have our home page right over here in the pages folder. So let me go ahead and import that. In order to actually use the component, we need to import it. Yo, VMQXDV, welcome to the stream. So let's import home page from. Let's go inside pages this time, and let's import home. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to, let's see, how do I route the component again? The route, so there's a property called path. We're going to just leave it at the home route, and we can do it this two ways. We can render the component, or we can use the tag over here as home page. So if I save, this should give us, let's see. I think we might have, oh, we're not even running our application. Okay, there we go. See, we have homepage. See? So what's going on here is we have the route component, okay? And if you want, if you're really eager, you can go through the entire definition, look at it, but you don't really have to, okay? Especially if you're, starting out with React, you don't have to. But all you need to know is that this route component has a prop, okay, called path, and we're passing in this slash. That's the main route, right? The home route. Obviously, I can name this whatever I want, but what's going to happen is we're expecting a component to be rendered over here. We're going to render the homepage component that we created inside the homepage component over here. We implemented the JSX logic over here, okay, and we are just rendering it for this home route over here. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now when I go to the localhost port 3000 / it's going to take me to the component page. It's going to render this homepage component, and now inside this homepage component, I can go ahead and import that navigation component that I created earlier. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go inside here. Let's import navigation from, and we have to specify the relative path. So we're gonna have to go out one directory because we're currently inside home. Oh, we have to go out two. So we have to go outside home. We're in pages. We have to go outside another one so that we're inside the source folder. And then we have to step inside components and then step inside navigation. And we can just leave it like this. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and render that navigation component inside this div right over here. Okay. And now if I go ahead and look at the browser, you can see we have our very ugly but very simple navigation bar. This is all this component logic over here. All of the implementation is in a separate file. So we can keep our navigation bar, its logic, its design, its CSS, everything in its own file away from the home page. And we can reuse this component over and over and over again. So there's a lot of things that this teaches us. It teaches us code reusability, modularity, so making your code more modular, and good practice as well, of course. And it solves the whole thing of having to copy and paste a bunch of things in your other files. Instead, you just import it and then reuse it over and over again as many times as you want. No need to worry about copying and pasting everything. You have it there one time, written once, and there you go. Hopefully that is a very simple example of reusing components, okay? And let's go ahead and create a new page. So let's say if I want an about page, okay? I can create another folder. Again, you don't have to do the whole folder thing. I'm just doing this because I want to do it. It's up to you, but of course, I want to show you guys the way I do certain things because I feel like if I were to show you guys the non-neat way, a lot of people would follow it and they would get into the habit of that. So it's always good to show good practices first. So that way people, because you don't know who's watching you, who's learning from you. You show good practices, it will stick in people's heads and they'll follow it. Okay, so let's create an index.js file. Okay, and now at work they actually use the same structure, so I'm kind of just passing this, you know, along the way. So for people who are new to React, they would know how to really like just structure this out. Okay, so we're gonna go and just again we're gonna create our own about page. Okay, so this about page is not really gonna have any state, so we can use a function component. Okay, so that's the logic that's the thinking that I want to go about. If the component doesn't have any state, we can just get away with using a functional component. Again, now with the new whole React features, you can use state with functions, so it doesn't really, you don't really have to worry so much about that. Okay, but if you feel like using functional components, use functional components. If you feel like using class-based components, go for it. Yo, welcome back. It's just for you. Thank you so much. Okay, so like I said, we're just gonna do the same things over and over and over again. We're gonna import React. Okay, we're gonna be doing this over and over and over again. So hopefully it sticks inside your head if you're following this. Okay, we are importing the React module. You must import that. Oh, and actually, we're not using a class-based component, so we don't have to import component. Now we can just go ahead and do export default function, and let's just name this about page. Okay, and now we're gonna go ahead and just return h1 about page, and I'm gonna go ahead and import the navigation bar from components navigation. Building good habits since 2017. Yeah, if you follow bad practices, if you follow poor practices, it's gonna stick with you. And when you see someone else's implementation, or if you try to like, or if someone, you know, criticizes you for you know, bad practice, it's gonna be very hard for you to kind of like fix it. So it's always good to teach good practices. Okay, not claiming that this is the best folder structure, but it is one that, you know, my workplace uses, and you know, my workplace has been using this code base for a very long time. So I would say that, you know, when I first saw this, I was like, wow, this is actually a very good idea. I really like the way on how they structured everything, so I decided to adopt to this. Before, I was following a very similar structure. Actually, before I didn't create folders and create index.js files. I just created the folder with the name of the file. But I saw that they were doing this, so I just decided to go with it. But again, whatever works for you, you know, whatever works for you. For some people, it might take some time to really understand the whole structure and how all these files work and stuff. But you know, it's once you learn it, it's very rewarding. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So let's go and get our about page inside. Where's our main app.js? Okay, so this app.js file, so this is our main component. This component is using the router, and this component is responsible for matching paths to the correct component. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to create another route tag, path, and now this time I can actually specify the about tag. And if I want to do a little bit shorthand, there's also a component property that we can pass in the actual component, and we need to use curly braces for that. So let's first import about page from pages about. Okay, and let's go ahead and pass that in as a prop. Okay, and you can see navigation. We can just actually get rid of this. Okay, and now if I go over to about, I go over to about right over here, it's going to take me to the about page. Now we actually have, for some reason, we have the home page being rendered 2 times. Oh, what is going on? Let's see. Might need to add the exact path to prevent that. Normally routers don't behave like that, but for some reason it behaves like that for React Router. But there might be something I'm missing from the documentation, so we can take a look at that, and we can just read a little bit about it. Okay. Exact. Let's see. I mean, we can also just Google it too. Like, if you ever have a question, the best thing to do is just Google, right? What is React exact? Or React router exact prop. And it should explain, like, we should have a meeting. Hopefully we don't have to log in. Okay, so you all are aware of how to use React Router for loading components for respective routes defined. Oh, hold on. In this article, we will look at the newly introduced keyword. So this was from 2018. Will you be connecting the Discord login backend app you made to a React app? Yes. Yes, JD. So the whole point of this is we're trying to learn React together. And so people who don't know React, they can look at the way that I'm taking, that I'm approaching on learning React. And this is going to be a VOD on the channel. So if anyone ever has questions, they can always resort to, this whole video. We're going to spend a lot of time, going through this whole process. The whole point of this, React.Js Bootcamp thing is to learn React from start all the way to the end. Technically, there really is no end because we're never going to feel satisfied. It's really until we feel satisfied. And I think I'll feel satisfied when we actually apply all the stuff that we're learning into building an actual user interface. So that's the whole goal right now. But we have to learn the actual, functionalities, how they work. Okay. So let's see. In this article, we will look at the newly introduced keyword React and v4 router. So I think we are on a very recent one, router dump. So that's version 5. So this might be a little bit outdated. But we only care about what the exact keyword does. So let's see. If you try to visit the routes, you'll find respective results as below. We'll show you app in the browser. We'll show you app dashboard on the browser. We'll show app dashboard. Oh, I see. Okay, so it's saying that. Okay, so it's basically telling us the behavior on what was going on. See the above behavior when you load /route, you can only see app is being run on the browser, but when you load /dashboard, then you see both app and dashboard. So why is it behaving this way? So when we try to load dashboard, this route pattern is matching both / and dashboard, so it renders both the components. JD, thank you for doing all of your videos. Really appreciate them. Yo, JD, I really appreciate it, man. And yeah, I'm gonna keep doing videos. I'm trying my best to be on the daily grind. This morning I was trying to upload a music. I was trying to continue with the music bot video. I woke up a little bit late today. Normally I wake up at 4, but today I woke up at like 6. So I was like, yeah, I think today I can afford to take a day off. I've been putting out a lot of videos, even though I didn't want to. But I was like, I'll take a day off today. But yeah, man, I'm trying my best to do as much streams as possible. Not only does it help other people out, but it also helps me out too. It helps me grow more as a developer and learning more new things. Yo, Kospata, what's up, man? How's it going? Welcome back to the stream. Okay, so it's saying, so what if you try to display your only profile and not dashboard? Okay, so just add exact keyword on dashboard route and you can only see that profile. Okay, so I guess, yeah, exact is literally what it says. It's rendering it exactly. So that's something that we should note down. Let me see if I can, hold on, give me 1 sec. You go to bed at 4? Damn. It just be like that sometimes. Yeah, I go to bed at 4 sometimes too, when my sleep schedule is really messed up. I hate doing it though, but I couldn't, yeah, I've actually gotten used to getting up at 4. It's like a habit now, so I don't really, I'm used to it. My body's used to it. Before, I was like a zombie. Okay, so let me make note of that. We actually need the exact keyword, so I guess maybe, I don't know where to keep my developer notes. Typically, I have a notebook that I write stuff down, but I kind of want to document my process, so let me see. I don't want to do it all in Notepad. At least y'all go to bed. I forget what mine feels like. Okay, so let me actually write down some notes. What time do I go to bed? I go to bed at around 9:30 to 10 o'clock. Hopefully tonight I can fall asleep at like 10 o'clock and just wake up at 4. Like when I wake up at 6, like I feel like I've, I don't know, I feel like I've ruined my whole day. Getting up at 4 allows me to have a lot of, quiet time to myself. And just do whatever I want. I don't know why my music stopped. Okay. Anyways, okay. So let's see. Do I have Dynalist opened up? Let me open up Dynalist. Okay. Let's see. Awesome. I love this application. If you guys don't know what this app is, this application, it's called Dynalist. It's very good for just writing stuff down. I'm going to create a new folder called React Bootcamp. Okay. And let's just create a new folder called router. And I want to keep all of my notes here. I kind of want to document my process so I know exactly what I'm, learning. You don't just want to read documentation and just do everything all at once. Because, I mean, for me personally, whenever I do that, I just forget everything. For some people, it's good to, just look back at what you learned and just write stuff down, just to recap. Okay, let's see. React router DOM. Need to add exact keyword in order to render the exact component. Otherwise, it will render multiple components that match that routes. So for example, we just saw in the previous example, we saw that without the exact keyword, when we went to /about, since /about also matches slash over here, it's going to render both of those routes. So we have to note that down. If we have two routes and /dashboard, it will render both components since the router matches both of those routes. Okay, awesome. So now that I have written that down, I'm more aware of what's, happening next. So the next time when I use router in a new project, I'll remember that, hopefully. Okay, but we have our notes down, so that's good. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now, I can continue on with all of my pages. So let's just create another page. So let's create a contact page. So this is going to have some contact information. Okay, and again, this might not have much state, so we'll just use a functional component. We're going to export defaults, function, contact page. Okay, so there's actually something called arrow function components, I think. React arrow function component. I want to actually use this a little bit because I saw this in the code base when I was at work. I guess maybe we can kind of see React function components, also known as React function components. Blah, blah, blah. In this step guide, shows you everything about React functions, blah, 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 which are basically just JavaScript functions being React components. Let's see. With the introduction of JavaScript ES6, new coding concepts are introduced to JavaScript and therefore to React. For instance, a JavaScript function can be expressed as a lambda, also known as an arrow function. Okay, that's why a function component is sometimes called an arrow function component. And so it's just basically another way to create components. So I'm guessing we can also create a component. Let me see, how did they do it? So headline is a component. And that takes in what value? I'm guessing that's a prop. Over here we have a component over here with an arrow function. Oh, let's try that out real quick and let's see how that works. So let's see. Const contact page equals let's see, let's return, what if I just did this? This looks really ugly. Let's try contact page. I just want to show you guys that there are other ways to create components too. But now let's export this. So export default contact page. Okay, so hopefully I did this correct, but we'll find out when we actually try to render our routes. So let me actually fix this a little bit. We're going to use the shorthand mode, so we're going to just pass in the component as a prop. So we're going to do home page. Okay. What's going on over here? Oh. Okay. Let's see. Alright, let's import that component now. So import contact page from pages about. And let's just do the same thing. We're gonna create a new route. We're gonna let's see what happens when we don't match it with exact. Okay, so we're gonna do slash. Let's do contact component contact page. So hopefully I'm not using this incorrectly, but we'll find out in just a sec. So now if I try to go to slash the main route, we're gonna have home page. If I go to dashboard, oh, not dashboard. What is it? About. Now if I go to contact, this should route, or Contact is not routing anything, huh? Let's see. Try the exact this time. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so it seems like it's not actually rendering our functional or arrow syntax based component. So oh wait, I'm importing the wrong component. That was an epic fail. That's supposed to be in contact. There we go. Okay, so now this should have rendered. Yep, there we go. Okay, so it seems like it's not picking up the other routes even without the exact keyword. Okay, I feel like maybe we might only need exact for one of them. Let me see real quick. I was like guessing and checking to find out new things, so it's a good way to figure things out. Okay, I guess that also works. So maybe we might need only exact for one route. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to look. I'll have to do more digging into it. Do I need a switch? I don't think we need a switch. I'll read up on what the switch does. But I did use it yesterday. And I'm guessing a switch looks through all its children route elements and renders the first one whose path matches the current URL. Oh, okay, so we could use a switch. That could also work. Arrow function component seems more JavaScript-like, and I like it. Yeah, that's true. We can have a simple arrow function like this, and I can also just make this look a bit nicer. And this is why I need a linter. I need the linter to tell me if I'm doing something wrong. I saw someone earlier on Discord server having a bit of struggling getting their site to work on VPS. Will you also be covering that area? Yeah, sure, JD. I could probably do that at some point. Rias, or Rias, welcome to the stream. Give me one sec. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that. I was AFK. And the wild answer returns to his den to get some food. No, I just have to use the bathroom. I have fruit though. Okay. I have prawn cocktail crisps. Yo, what's going on, Mega? Welcome to the stream, man. Welcome back to the stream. Okay, I think you guys get the idea of routing and components. So there's no need for us to like go super crazy, but let's actually import our navigation bar to all of our pages. And let's just put that here. And let's just set up a simple navigation bar, nothing too crazy. Again, we're focusing more on functionality than the actual design. We're gonna get to the design part like later on. Yeah, chips. That's what us Americans call it. Okay, so we should have our navigation bar for contact page. Okay, so now I need a way to route these links. So, let me see. Does React Router take care of, let's see. I don't think React Router really it doesn't really matter too much. We can probably just have, like, I guess, links that'll take us there. Well, no, I don't want links, though. There should be some kind of a way to URL parameters, is it? Li. Oh, okay, so we'll use link. Awesome. Okay. I think we don't need to import router for this. We're about to find out. Do we need router for link? Riangu. Hello from Brazil. Welcome to the stream, Riangu. Okay, so let's import link into the navigation component and see how this works. Okay, I don't think we would need router though, because it's not like we're creating a new router, we just need link. So we probably don't need to require link. Okay, so in the documentation, we have a bunch of list item tags, and in each list item tag, we're wrapping the name of the list item with the link. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I completely forgot what I was about to do. Li link. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick. So let's see. Give me one sec. All right. Anyways, so link, and then the param or the prop is 2. So we're gonna pass in a prop, and this link is going to take us to, let's see, home, or just, yeah, slash. And we're gonna call it like that. Oh wait, I think I might need the actual closing tag. Yeah, there we go. Why React instead of vanilla JavaScript? Well, there are a lot of reasons why you would want to use React instead of vanilla JavaScript. Vanilla JavaScript is obviously nice, and understanding the document get element by IDs, add elements to the DOM, knowing how to do that with just vanilla JavaScript, I think is a good skill to have. But there comes to a point where your application is going to grow very large, and having to do that over and over again is just going to take a lot of time. Now, obviously, back then, people had to do that because we didn't have these frameworks. But since we had to do this over and over and over again, people are like, yo, let's create a framework that takes care of all of these abstract stuff for us so that we can use that framework and then build these applications much more faster. Okay? Hopefully that kind of clarifies a little bit on why you would want to choose React. Scalability, yeah. Oh yeah, man. We're not too far in, so if you want, you can also rewind back. Great, man. I think I'm picking it up. Just need states now and many more stuff. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into state. Let's see. About, and what is it? Contact. All right, so let's see how this turns out. Hopefully we don't All right, so we can see we have a bunch of links, and if I click on here, look at that. Look at that. Personally, I find React a little easier to understand how it works. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people find React a lot easier than a framework like Angular, because Angular itself is pretty beefy to learn. And also, by the way, if you guys are not on my Discord server, feel free to check it out. Okay, it's the best way to, come in, ask questions, get help with code. Feel free to come check out the server. Lots of people on here of all different backgrounds, so definitely check that out. The link is in the description, by the way. once we're done with React, my main goal is to go into Angular. But I know everyone hates on Angular for some reason. One time I was posting a comment on a subreddit for JavaScript full of React lovers, and I commented that I liked Angular, and everyone just downvoted me, so that wasn't too fun. But I don't know why people hate Angular so much. I guess it's because of the high learning curve. But there are so many things that Angular does for you that React itself doesn't do. Okay, Angular has the built-in router, it has built-in form validation, it has very easy integration with Material UI. Angular has its own HTTP client, and React has to use something like Axios to get data. Okay, a lot of larger companies that have a really big application, they use Angular because Angular is more great for enterprise level applications. Okay, let me go ahead and style my navigation component a little bit. This looks a little bit like ugly. I don't know if I want to put everything in just one file because React doesn't have scoped. I don't think React really has a built-in scoped CSS. So I'm kind of just tempted just putting everything in the index.css file. So what I'll do is let's go inside ul. And let's just call this navigation. Not really the best ID name. Navigation. So we have an ID and class name. Okay. And I want to go ahead and just create some CSS. So and what I want to do with navigation is I want to first get rid of the bullet points. So list style type, set that to none. So that should get rid of the bullet points. Okay. We're going to get rid of some padding. We got rid of the padding. And what I want to do with the links is I want to go ahead, excuse me. Let's see, navigation. For every list element, I'm going to set the display to inline. I could set it to flexbox, but no reason to for now. Okay, so that's going to put everything like that. And we can give it some padding in between. So 25 pixels, see how that looks like. There we go. Not the best looking navigation bar, but we're going to use some kind of a UI library later on. Do you feel it's better to master one technology first before moving on to others, or rather jump around and learn many things at the same time? It's definitely much better to master one technology. The only reason why I mentioned Angular was because I come from an Angular background primarily, and I really liked Angular, and I feel like it's definitely worth investing into Angular if you're building out an application. And also myself want to refresh on Angular. But it's always important to master one technology. Okay, and I'm not saying to just focus on just that one thing. What I'm saying is just do that one thing first and then slowly branch out to other things. For example, if you're starting with React, don't worry so much about GraphQL. Don't worry so much about Express. Don't worry so much about PHP. Don't worry about all of these crazy things that people are going to throw at you. Okay? Most of the time, people are going to be like, yo, you should learn GraphQL, React, blah, blah, blah. Learn it one at a time. Okay? If you can handle React, then that's good. Then slowly work your way from front end to the back end, and then work your way to the other technologies and stuff. It's kind of like if you just like cram everything, all of your knowledge, without really like taking a step back and really understanding what's going on. It's kind of like when you cram for an exam. The moment you walk out the class, you just forget everything that you learned. But it's very, very difficult to really, quote unquote, master these technologies. They're always going to be changing. They're always going to be adapting. So you just need to learn how to adapt to changes, not just, on the actual framework. You need to learn how to adapt. GraphQL is another query language, and it allows you. One of the things that it solves is that, let's say if you have a bunch of data that needs to be requested from the front end, GraphQL allows you to nest all of that data into its own objects itself. So instead of having to make so many requests to your API, GraphQL will take care of doing all of the searching in your database or some other REST API, and it'll return everything that you want. GraphQL also allows you to get the data that you actually want. Sometimes some APIs return a whole bunch of things that you just don't necessarily need. If you have the GraphQL server, GraphQL will only give you what you ask for. Okay, some APIs will give you a whole bunch of data that you're probably never going to touch. GraphQL will allow you to eliminate that data. Okay, and only when you need it, you're going to ask for it. You can ask for it when you need it. Yo, clearly, welcome to the stream. Welcome back. Glad to see you. Glad to see you again. Man, let's take a 5 minutes break and we continue. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of taking a break right now. Yeah, go for it, man. We're just talking about some stuff. We're just going to play around with some CSS. Nothing too crazy. We're not really going to... We're going to dive back into the React in just a little bit. We're just playing around with some CSS right now, making it look a little bit nicer. Obviously, this looks a lot better than before. I can give it some background if I wanted to. So, let's see. Navigation. What I'm going to do instead is... Let's see. I'm doing good, thank you, clearly. I think Graph help with filtering. Yeah, Mega, that's true. GraphQL solves a lot of things. And filtering out the things that you don't need is one of the nice things about GraphQL. Okay. Background color. Let's do a gray. I'm not really the best designer, so we're gonna have really ugly. We're gonna have a really ugly navigation bar. So loose VM is killing. Let's see. We have to go inside here. We have some unwanted padding up here that I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of. Oh, that's the padding. Oh, no, it's not. I really want to get rid of that. CSS right up there. There's like some padding over there. Let me see. Padding 0, margin 0. There we go. Awesome. Okay. We're going to go back inside here. We'll give some padding of 25 pixels. There we go. And we can separate our links by doing maybe padding 15 pixels. Alright, that's a lot better. Awesome. Okay, not the best navigation bar, but it works. Margins maybe. Alright. I think we're good enough with the CSS. We're not going to focus much on CSS. In the real world, most of the time, you probably won't need to focus much on the CSS part because the company will have their own custom CSS framework that they'll use. So you probably rarely will have to figure out on that. But I'm not saying don't learn CSS because that is a very important thing to understand how it works and stuff. But I'm just saying we're not going to focus so much on this because we're going to end up using a UI library. Okay. All right, so I think we're good with navigation. I think we can slowly start to move on to other cool things. So we know how to render stuff. We know what JSX is. JSX, specifying children's JSX. There's a whole lot of stuff over here. Okay. Alright, so I think we're good on that. I'm really hyped for the level bot React web app, yeah. Yeah, man, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn React together and then use that knowledge to build that level bot application. There's a lot of examples on the documentation, which I love. Okay, so let's talk about props a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about props. Components let you split the UI into independent, reusable pieces and think about each piece in isolation. This page provides an introduction to the idea of components, and you can find the API over here. Okay. We've already went over function and class components. We've already went over rendering component. Okay. Let's see. What is this? However, elements can also represent user-defined components. So what are they doing here? They're assigning this component to the elements variable, and they're rendering it, I guess, right over here, which is cool. Composing components. Components can refer other components in their output. Okay. Extracting components. Don't be afraid to split components into smaller components. I see. Okay. Yeah, so this is pretty much what we were doing. Okay, so let's talk about props. So right now, let's say for example, we might need certain we might need to pass in certain data into certain components. So there's something called props that we can use, and I'm trying to find the formal definition on props because I don't want to get this wrong. You can basically just think of the props like the properties of the component, and that another component is just going to pass that down to another component. So for example, let's say we have our contact page. Okay, I might have another component inside here, like our register form, and I might want to pass in some data into that register form component. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go inside our contact page. Let's import, let's see, register form from components, register form. Okay, and let's go ahead and render that register form. It doesn't have anything right now. We're gonna see, excuse me. We don't really have anything. Let's see, it should say value, or maybe I'm doing this wrong. Hopefully I'm not. Let's see, this dot value. We are exporting register form component. Oh, maybe it's register form component. I may have imported that incorrectly. Alright, let's see what's going on here. For some reason it's not displaying it. I might be doing something wrong. Let's check the docs. Let's see. State variable React. Oh. Well, that should be fine. We are, we set the state initially, so that should be fine. I'm trying to see what could be wrong. We have value over here. Okay. This dot state is equal to value. I'm trying to see what I'm doing wrong over here. Is it this dot state that count? Or this dot state dot... Oh, okay, that might be it. Okay, there we go. It's this dot state dot value. Okay. All right, and I can also have a bunch of other properties here. So we might want to call this name, and then age, let's say 22, and then gender will be male. Okay, and we'll just render some basic stuff like name. So I'm referencing this dot state, so referencing the state object. Okay, this is the state object. And let's just also list a couple other things too, such as this dot state dot age. And then we'll do h3, this dot state dot gender. So that should render all of our values. Oh, what's going over here? Adjacent must be wrapped in a closing tag. What is going on? Oh, wait, we have to put this inside a div. I forgot. Okay, now if I save, you can see all of our data is rendered to the page. Now, what if we, instead of hard coding the values of our state, right? What if we wanted to pass in data dynamically, right? Because all of this data over here could be, you know, anything that we want. It could be, you know, the name could be whatever we want, the age could be whatever we want, the gender could be whatever we want. If we're fetching data from an API or a database, we may want to render a bunch of different components dynamically, and we'll do that in just a sec. But for example, if we wanted to have this data be different, we can do it a couple ways. We can pass in props, so we'll go ahead and do that. So let's go over here, and inside register form component, we'll just pass in some props. Or not props, we're gonna have to pass in, let's see. Let's pass in name. Let's do Anson, age 22. And then gender. I don't think I can pass in a number like that. I don't think I should pass in as an object. So let's just do 22. There we go. Okay. So now, if I go over here and if I console log props, watch what's gonna happen. Let's see. Oh, let's get rid of all this first. Actually, we can just leave. Yeah, let's just get rid of all this first before we do anything else. So look in the console and you're gonna see that we have this object over here. I don't know why it's rendering twice for some reason. That is the weirdest thing that's ever happening. It's loading our component twice for some reason. That's really weird. But you can see right over here that we have the props, right? These are all the props that we passed in from right over here, right? We are importing the register form component and we're passing our props into this component down here. I can't wait to get to the point where I learn how to add dark mode options to my site. I have a list of things I want to learn to do, and I'm working through them in order. Yeah, that seems like a really good feature to implement. Okay, so we are passing in props. Now, typically the best thing that you should do is you should set the state. You could do something like this, that state was props. Okay? Because technically what we could do is we can go ahead and just render our data like this. We can do this dot, we can do props dot name, and that should render just fine. Okay, but here's the thing, you don't want to do this, even though it's still gonna work, but you don't want to do it because the whole point is to have the data correspond to the component itself. When we're referencing props, we're really referencing an object that has nothing to do with the component itself, right? We're just passing in the data from here. It has things to do with encapsulation. So the best thing you should do is set the state object to props, or you can just manually set the state one by one, but of course this would just set the state to whatever props is. And then we can go ahead and reference this .state.name. And if we save, it's going to literally do the same thing. Okay, and it also says it is not recommended to assign props directly to state because updates to props won't be reflected in state. It's better to use props directly. Okay, so again, there are two ways. You can either do this.state with props, or we can do this.state. And then we can go ahead and set the props. So we can say name is equal to props.name. Gender is props.gender. And then, well, let's do age is props.age. And now, the state of this component has values that correspond to the component itself, and it's not the actual props. So if I save, we should see that error, or not error, but the warning is gone. And we still have our data being rendered to the DOM. This.state.age. Okay, and let's just do this.state.gender. Let's create a form with input that can clear lots of things with props and state. Yeah, let's do that. This is just a simple example of how props work. See how I'm passing in all that data from right over here inside this component. Okay. So, and I can also change that up, so I can change this to Zach. I can change this to 22, and I can change this to male or whatever. We'll just leave that alone. And you can see it'll say Zach. So you can start to think, let's say if you were to fetch a bunch of users from a database, and you want to dynamically render a bunch of different users from the database, you'd want to create your own user component, and then pass in those fields as props into that component, and you would just dynamically render it. And I'll show you what I mean just later on. But let's go ahead and get rid of all this, because this has nothing to really do with the form. So let's go ahead and just create a simple form. Okay, and we're gonna play around. We're gonna do some more complex stuff. We're gonna, listen to some events, like, whenever they click on a button, something like that. Okay, let's do this. So let's get rid of all these props. And let's build out a simple form. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do div. We're going to actually just do form. Okay, and we don't really need this constructor, so let's get rid of it. Okay, we won't need it for now. My brain dies when I see React. I feel you. Alright, let's go ahead and do a simple input value. Or actually, value we'll leave alone. Input type is text. Okay, let's do a simple placeholder. Let me move this over here. Let's do another input. Password. We'll leave placeholder alone. We'll leave it like this for now. If I render, I should have two different boxes. This is a password. This is the placeholder. Okay. Alright. Now, let's go ahead and do this. Let's create a button. Submit. We have our submit button. And what we'll do is we'll add an event listener, the on-click listener, to the submit button. So whenever it's submitted, what I want to do is I want to get the values of the let's do this. I want to get the value of this input as well as this. Now, React itself does not have two-way data binding. Okay, I remember I was encountering this problem before. React data binding in frameworks like Vue.js and Angular. There's something called two-way data binding. And what's the best way that I can explain data binding? Because built-in React doesn't have two-way data binding, I think. At least last time I checked, it didn't. But data binding allows us to, I guess, bind a field or a variable onto something like, I guess, a text field. So as you are updating the text field, it'll also update the instance field of the, component. And then the DOM will also be updated as well. So there's a way to go about this. We need, I guess, two handler functions that will update the state every single time. So, okay, let's see. On event, on change. And let's go over here and let's create a function called handle text change. And this is going to be, let's see, component. And we're going to call this handle text change every single time something changes. So if I did this correctly, it should log something. Let's see what happens if I... There we go. So before we move on, let's take a quick recap on what's going on, what we just did. So right over here, for this input tag, I added an event listener called onChange. In vanilla JavaScript, I think this is called JavaScript onChange events. Okay, so in vanilla JavaScript, this is the function, or this is the event over here. So whenever something changes in either like a text box or a select box, drop down, something like that, it's going to call this function over here. And what we're doing here is whenever text changes inside this input box, we're going to invoke handle text change. Okay? Now, what we need to actually do here is we need to update the state. We need to get the actual value of this input type. So I think we can actually bind. I forgot how to do that. Let me look that up. React form binding. Because I remember I saw a way to do this a while ago. I think, yeah, the documentation also has this too. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and go inside our constructor. So what we're essentially trying to achieve here is we're trying to bind the value of this form to an actual property on the component so that it'll auto-update as we are typing. Okay, that's one of the things that we can achieve with two-way data binding. Okay, and if we go over here, not here, over here, you can read a little bit about this. HTML forms work a little bit differently from the DOM, because form elements naturally keep some internal state. For example, this form in plain HTML accepts a single name. This form has the default HTML form, blah, 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 but in most cases, it's convenient to have a JavaScript function that handles the submission of the form. Okay. Controlled components typically maintain their own state and keep updated based on user input. In React, mutable state is typically kept in the state property of components and only updated with set state. We can combine the two by making React state be the single source of truth, blah, blah, blah. For example, if we wanted to make this previous example log the name whenever it's submitted, we can write the form as a controlled component. Okay, and that's what's going on. So we're going to implement that. So let me move this to the other side over here. The super, okay, so super basically calls the superclass's constructor. So over here, because we're using a class-based function, or not class-based function, class-based component. Okay. We're using a class-based component. So whenever you do that, you must extend component. A component is the superclass. And when you extend a class, you inherit all of the fields, methods as well. I believe you don't have to explicitly bind. I think you're right, actually. Well, wait, bind. No, we don't have to bind. Yeah. From the documentation, yeah, we don't have to bind because we are using arrow function. That's right. Because this itself still refers to, handle text change. Yeah, it should be fine because we are using arrow function. Yeah, you're right. In that example, though, they were using just a regular function, so they had to do bind. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the constructor, and we're gonna take in props. If we do have any props, we'll take it in, and we're gonna pass those props into a superclass constructor. Okay, so I'm calling the superclass constructor component because component has a constructor. Right over here. See? This is the constructor of the component. Okay? And what we're going to do here is we're going to set the state. So we're going to reference this.state equals. And we're going to set the name. So we'll do name is equal to this. And we'll do password is equal to this. Okay? So now, what we'll do is whenever one of our input field changes, we need to take in the event parameter because an event occurred. Okay, now watch this. If we were to log this event to the console, you're gonna see Where is it? Where's my React app? Right over here. Notice how if I type, it's logging this synthetic event class or this instance. And there are a bunch of different properties on there. But we only need to worry about the actual value that we want. So that's the value of this input box over here. So we can do event.target.value. Okay, so the target itself is the target that this event is happening on. So in this case, it's going to be this input over here, this input box. If I type, notice how it says D, F, G. As I'm typing, okay, it is actively updating, or not updating yet, but it's actively logging the new updated value, right? So if we were to start all over, right now the value is an empty string. If I type once, okay, the onChange event is being listened to, and it's using that handle text change function to handle that change, okay? In JavaScript, there's something called event paradigm, or the event-driven paradigm, and JavaScript itself reacts to a lot of different events. We use functions to handle those events whenever they happen, and that's what we're doing over here. This onChange event, we're using this handle text change function to handle the event. Right now we're just logging, but what we want to do is we want to update the state of name. So let's update the state. So to actually update the state, you're probably thinking, well, we could probably just do this.state equals name event dot target dot value, and then you can probably just join the rest of the state. But this actually is not the case. You actually can't do this. Okay, you actually need to use the set state method, and you need to update the value. So we're gonna do name, and we're gonna set that to event target dot value. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't actually modify password. I'm not entirely sure, but let's go ahead and go inside. Let's create a div actually. And let's go inside here. And we're going to go ahead and reference this .state .name. And let's see how this works. I think these live streams have really helped my development skills. Yo, I'm glad to hear that. That's great to hear. Alright, so let's go ahead and do hello. Look at that. It is actively updating the state. Okay? It's updating the state's value of name over here. Okay? So if I do hello world 1 2 3 4, and I can just keep typing as much as I want. Pretty awesome. We can do the same thing with password too. So let's do let's see, handle password change. So another arrow function. Really like using arrow functions. And we're gonna go ahead and just, I hope this does not set the actual, I hope this doesn't actually replace name. If it does, then we might have to do this another way, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't though. So let's set the password to whatever it is, and we'll just log it for now. So h1 set state password. Okay, let's see how this works. So if I update this, that should be fine. If I update this, that is not being logged to the console. Do we have any errors? We don't have any errors, but for some reason, let's see. Oh, maybe I was not binding. Oh, oh wait, we haven't actually listened to the event. So we have to listen to the event. This not handle password change. There we go. Okay, so hopefully this does not override the actual state. Okay, so 1 2 3. There we go. Perfect. All right, so it doesn't actually override the actual properties, which is great. Okay, awesome. So my username could be Anson. My password could be 1 2 3. Okay. And now you're probably wondering, well, why is this used? Why is this useful? So let's say if I were to submit this, the component will have the updated values. It will have the values already. So all we need to do is just send this data to some API, like the Express API, to our backend, and either save it to a database or do something with it. Okay, we can do whatever we want. We can add an event listener onto the submit button. So on click, we can do something like, I don't know, what can we do? Alert this dot state name, this dot state dot password. So if I do this, it's gonna alert 3 style 1 2 3. We can do a whole bunch of things. Events are key with React and user interfaces. Okay, if let's say for example, if I were to click on the document over here, this is a click event. If I were to scroll, that's a scroll event. If I were to I don't know, there are a whole bunch of events that we can listen to. Okay, but these are very basic events that you definitely should understand how they work before moving on to the more complex ones. Okay, but let's say for example, if I wanted to send this data to the backend, okay, we would create some kind of function, call that API, and pass in the data. Karul, welcome to the stream, man. How's it going? Yeah, I'm glad that the stream is helping you guys out with your development skills. I'm glad to really hear that. And I'm definitely going to keep doing more of them. It's just personally for me, recording videos on React, because right now I'm not super great with it, but I feel like, I know enough that we can learn together. So instead of just, not live streaming, I'd rather just live stream myself learning React and explaining everything one by one. Because if I can understand it and if I can explain it well to someone else, then I feel like that itself means that I probably understand it just enough to be able to use it and apply the concepts. So if you understand what's going on, then that's good. That's good. I'm glad if you do. But of course, React itself is, there's a lot of stuff that goes on with React, so it takes a while to get used to. Yo, Vincent too, what's good, man? How's it going? All right, and let's see. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so I think we have the idea of how, updating state works. Watching learn is making me learn, to be honest. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, man. It's kind of like, collaborative learning in a sense. Collaborative learning, which is great. Okay. So I think we've gotten that down. We understand how to update state, and we can keep on doing this over and over again. For example, let me try to think of another good example that we could do. Let's go inside the About page, okay, and let's do this. Trying to think, what should I do here? Let's create a div, and I'm gonna create a simple div. We're gonna give it a class name of I don't know what to call this. Block. Not the best name, but we're gonna go inside index.css and we're gonna create the class block, and I'm just gonna give this a couple of properties. So width, we'll do 350 pixels, height 350 pixels, so just simple square, a background color of pink. Okay, what does that look like? Okay, so what if I wanted to do some kind of action whenever I click on this div? Well, we can go ahead and actually add an event listener on this div. So on click, maybe I might want to do something. Maybe I might want to, I don't know, get some random image from a database or some API and display it. We're not using APIs right now, so we'll just do something simple. So we have our event, okay, and we need to register it with a function. So whenever that event happens, it's going to invoke that function. Bro, how can I take a prefix length and do if prefix length is bigger than 3 and return Discord? You would have to slice the message based on the prefix length, I guess. I'm not sure. You have to know you have to know the length of the prefix in advance. Well, off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure right now. But anyways, let's go ahead and create a simple handler function. So typically people call this an event handler function. So we'll call this handle click events. And we'll just use an arrow function and take in the event parameter in case we might need it. And we'll do handle. Okay. Let's go ahead and what's going on? Oh, this is a function. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think this should work. Like I said, I've never really used functional components before. So, how would you get the data you put into the form to appear on the about page instead of the same page? How would you get the data you put in the form to appear on the about page? That's gonna be a little bit tricky. I think the best thing to do. Well, there are a couple ways that we could go about it. When we click on it, we could. That's a little bit tricky because right now these components are independent from each other, right? They're independent. One component is not the parent of another, and the other component is not the child of another, vice versa. Okay, but if we really wanted to do that, we could just save it to local storage, and then we can. I mean, I guess there's probably something called an event emitter that we can probably use. Well, right now I'm not entirely sure, but that is a good question though. How would you get the data you put in the form to appear on the about page? Typically, in applications, most of the time what you would do is you would send the data to the database, and then when the person visits that page again, it'll show the updated values. But we could just have a global array, like a global state. But we would need something like Redux for that, I think. Which is, I think when we get into the more complex stuff, when we use Redux, it'll make a lot more sense. Let's just hope that this works right now. So let me open the console. There we go. So when I click on this pink box, if I click outside of it, right, I'm clicking right now. It's not saying hello, but when I click on it, it's saying hello. And like I said, we could do whatever we want. We can go ahead and fetch data from an API. Let's do a simple. Let's see, just JSON placeholder. Let's fetch some fake data. And let's display it. I know we're kind of all over the place, but we're showing like the functional features. You could use React Router also to to pass the route, to pass the data along. Okay, let's use the fetch API. And what I want to do is when I click on this box, we're gonna go ahead and fetch data. So we might want to use async. Actually, we'll use a promise. Let's use fetch, then response, and then if we want, we can just console log this. So what we're doing here is we're using the fetch API that's built in to the browser, and we are fetching this endpoint over here. Okay, we're making an HTTP GET request. If we want to make a POST request, we need to pass in an object and specify that the method is post. But we're trying to get data from an API. We're trying to get it from, where's the fake API? We're trying to get it from this URL over here. Okay, and this is some endpoint that has data. Data is obviously different. If you're fetching, some kind of API for MTA, like, for like transit, it would return, arrivals, bus stops, things like that. If you're fetching a weather API, it's going to give you weather data. If you're fetching YouTube API, it'll give you data relating to the resource that you're fetching for. And APIs allow you to integrate two applications with each other, which is pretty cool. Okay, so for example, if I want to build my own platform and, have all types of data stored in my database, I can create some kind of API that someone else can use. And that other person can use that API and use it to build their application out. Okay. So now if I log this to the console, now watch if I click on it, notice how we get this array back. Okay. We're basically fetching this endpoint and we're getting that data back. And now what I could do is I can go ahead and dynamically render this data on the DOM. So I'll do that right over here. I need to, let me change my music real quick. How are you this smart? I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I appreciate the awesome comment, but I think it's just, I've spent a lot of time doing these things, so, if the more you do, the better you're gonna get. That's just how it is. Obviously, I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world, but, everyone has different timelines for learning. For me, it took me a while to get used to the whole JavaScript web framework stuff. But once you actually get it, it's the most beautiful thing. but you got to be able to put in that work for it. Okay, so what I'll do is, let's see, I want to dynamically render some things, and that's something that I haven't shown you guys yet. So let's go ahead and dynamically render our data. So what I actually should do is I want to actually set the state. Yeah, I'm playing music, but I have it muted because I don't want to get copyright striked. And I figured some people would rather not have the music in the background if they want to watch this back again. So yeah, I don't know. I played music last time, and I played like a live stream, and I got a copyright strike. Yeah, like once you understand the foundations of things, it's only going to go up from there. If you jump right into something immediately without any context, you're just setting up yourself for failure. And like no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how smart you are, if you have a toolbox and if you have a toolbox full of a bunch of tools, and if you don't know how to use the tools, then how are you going to actually use it to, build a house or I don't know, build a birdhouse, fix your bike, things like that. So what do? You look through the toolbox, you look at the tool that you want to use, and you learn how to use it first before actually using it. The framework itself is just like, a toolbox. There's a lot of stuff that you can use when you ask for it. Okay? Alright, so this is going to be a little bit tricky because we are using a functional component, but I want to update the state. Okay. So let's see. From yesterday, I do remember that there is something called useState, so we'll go and do this const posts, set posts, and we can use the useState method. Oh, whoops. What was that? Oh, okay, it was just, okay. So this is going to be an array, so... Oh, I think we need to import this, right? Yeah, I think we need to import it. Okay, and we're going to set post to an array. Okay, and it's saying post is, okay. So now, when we actually get the data from the database, we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to log into the console, and I'm going to go ahead and do set posts res. Now if I log posts, if you know what to search most of the time, you're golden. Yeah, that is true. Learning how to Google effectively is the key to being a developer, being an effective developer. A lot of people don't know how to practice the concept of Googling, and it takes a while to get used to it, but once you do, you can do whatever you want. It's like, for example, if I don't know how to conditionally render, what do I do? Okay, what do I do? How to conditionally render in React. Now, let's say you might not know these certain terms that these buzzwords that people always throw around. So you might think to yourself, well, so what if I wanted to render everything in a list dynamically? How would I do that? So maybe we could do something like React list elements in array, something like that. Okay, and how to display a list in React. And you might read some stuff, how to render objects in React, okay? And then it'll show you a bunch of examples. Of course, sometimes Stack Overflow examples might not necessarily help, but you just got to keep digging and digging. And sometimes you just got to like just look at it and just try your best to understand what's really going on. But yeah, of course, maybe there might be some kind of keyword that you're missing or something. I don't know. Okay, so let's just save this and hopefully... okay, there we go. Our array is empty, though. That's not good. Seems like it might not be referencing. I think I need to do this.posts. I'm pretty sure I have to do this.posts. Okay, so we are not actually setting the state, which is bad. I think this might be something with, let's see. So now, okay, now I have an issue, right? It's not setting the state. Right, we're trying to call set posts. Okay. But it's not doing that. So maybe I might Google, let's see, function component set state, and I'll look it up. Okay, and we'll see some documentation. Let's see what they got. Okay, let's see, count set state, set count, use state, and let's see what are we doing here. Set count. I think we actually, let's see. I'm trying to remember. I don't think this should be an issue, but I might be doing something wrong. set count. It's not setting the array, which is what we want. Which is what I'm trying to do. Let's see. Do set to do's. Okay. Well, we are setting it to empty array, but it's not setting it for some reason. Let's see. Do I need to call use effect before use state? The effect that lets you perform side effects. Only call hooks at top level. Don't call hooks inside loops, conditioners, and functions. Okay, Well, we are using this hook over here, so that should be fine. Hold on, give me 1 sec. Trying to see what could be the issue that's going on over here. So it's giving me an issue with this. Okay, but the array is being rendered, but it's not setting the actual state. Let's see. Update state. Okay, so they've reduced. Oh, they're using Redux for this. Trying to figure something out. What if I actually did this? Let's see. Function about page. Set posts. Not sure why that's not setting the not sure why that's not setting the state. I feel like I'm missing something here. Maybe it can't happen asynchronously. I don't know, none of these examples are kind of helping. Let's see. Alright, Ahmed. Have a good night, man. Oh. Let's see. Const state equals use state. So use state returns some kind of function. So on change E, set message. So that should update the message. Okay. Might be doing something wrong. I don't know, but. Oh man. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and actually, I'll change this to a class. I don't know why this is giving me issues, but. Google 4 examples of use state hooks by David. Alright. Is it this guy, Dave? Well, yeah, like they're just calling the method, but I don't know why that method call and said the promise wasn't working, which is so weird. I don't know why it wasn't working. Like, I wish I knew. Oh boy. Alright, let's see. Okay. And we'll just leave this here. And this will be this done. Okay. Alright, let's see what this is all about. This dot set state. Okay, let me see what's going on. If this doesn't work, then I'm definitely doing something wrong, or maybe I just can't set the state asynchronous. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so that works. I'm definitely doing something wrong with functional components and the state. That's something I gotta look into. Farther down. Let me close the rest of my stuff real quick. Is it this one? Maybe useState cannot be an array or must be an object. This one? I think it's this one. Here's an example of the random numbers. I think it's this one, right? It's within an array. This one. We're just trying to get data from an API right now in dynamic render, but for some reason, our data's not being set. For some reason, I don't know. So it's taking okay, and then what do we do? So we're using the spreader operator to unpack the current array, and then but we want to join the other array though. I hope this fixes that. Hopefully that works. I'm crossing my fingers. Still empty. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. We're calling set posts, so I don't know why it would not set posts. Because I feel like we could just technically do this, and it should theoretically work, because our array is empty. Okay, and we're only calling it that one time, but... let's see. Because especially on the first call, it's just going to replace what post is. So, I don't know. Hey Christian, what's going on, man? How's it going? We're just playing around with React. We're trying our best to learn React as much as possible. Oh, now it has it. What the hell? Why did whoa? That is so weird. Hold on. That is so weird. What just went on? That is so weird. Okay, so initial. Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because. Oh, okay, I get it now. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to add that, so we'll leave this alone. Okay, that makes sense because. Oh boy, I think it's setting it first before. I guess yeah, it's happening asynchronously. Okay. Now we have it right. Yeah, for some reason that. But though on the first click, it should call the API and set post, but for some reason, post is not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's so weird. Set post is definitely not asynchronous, and that's strange. Well, let's see what's happening. Let's try to dynamically render this now. So, go const data. Yo, OSMX, what's going on, man? So we're gonna do posts dots. Is there a way we can set the data type? Let's just do map post. And I want to go ahead and return a bunch of divs. This looks so freaking ugly. Okay, let's try this. ID and title. Wait. String interpolation. Alright, hopefully this works. Okay. We cross our fingers and hope this works. Perfect. But we get a warning. Okay. Why is it saying what's going on? Post title, post ID. Why is it saying 1 on the side? That's weird. Okay. I'm not sure post 1. Oh, that's because that's okay, there we go. So we can okay, awesome. Click, bam, there we go. Perfect. So we got our data from the API. I don't think we did anything wrong, to be honest. I think I may have just logged something wrong, which is pretty weird, but yeah, this definitely I didn't see anything wrong with this, but okay, there we go. We have our data. So now I click on this. That should update the state of our posts. Okay. Now, what if I want to change the state? And so, if I click outside of the box over here, it is going to clear this post. Okay. So let's see. What could I do? I mean, I could do this. Let's do if post.length is equal to 0, then we will fetch the data. Otherwise, we will go ahead and set posts to empty array. There we go. So we're updating the state of our component and then deleting it from the variable, which is cool. Of course, there's a lot of other stuff you can do. Yeah, OSMX, go for your question, man. I'll try my best to answer it. What is Banger, Mongoose or MySQL? First of all, Mongoose is not a database. Mongoose is an ORM, which stands for Object Relational Mapper. Okay, and its responsibility is to define some kind of schema for your MongoDB database. Because with MongoDB, it's a NoSQL database. It's non-relational, which means that you don't need to consist of your data with tables, rows, and columns. It's a JSON-like object when you look at your data. Now, the nice thing about non-relational databases are that if you have a very large application that doesn't have a lot of relational data, it would be better to go about using MongoDB. With MySQL, if you have a very large application, there's a lot of times where you might want to add in new columns to your data, to like certain tables, and it's going to end up having a bunch of null values. Okay, so MongoDB is actually good for scalability, but MySQL itself is still decent because if you have a lot of relational data, it's better to represent that data in, tables, rows, and columns, and have primary keys mapping to other foreign keys of other tables, and so on and so forth. In my opinion, though, it just really depends on the use case. You got to ask yourself, like, honestly, if you're just starting with databases, don't worry so much about what's better. Just understand how databases work, and then worry about, the differences between the two. When I first started out, I did the same thing. I asked, what's better, right? I always compared frameworks. It's hard to tell when you don't know the differences when you haven't used either one of them yet. Okay, why don't you do this? Use MySQL, see how it works. If you like it, use it with your database. Use the database with the Discord bot or some kind of project. Then once you finish that project, maybe create a new project. Create something with MongoDB and Mongoose. See how you like it. Compare the two, and then you have a better understanding of what those two databases differ and how they're similar in certain ways. Okay. All right, let's see. We still have a lot to learn for React Router. We got a good basis of that and how it works, so that should be good. Let's see. I want to do. I gotta write some notes for useState. I used to do that. I used to use MySQL and train Mongo. I prefer Mongo, so I went with Mongo. Yeah, that's right. It's hard to really tell the differences between the two. It's like when you don't know how like these JavaScript front-end frameworks work, and you ask what's the difference between Angular and React. It's hard to tell when you. Obviously, I could tell you what the difference is, or, but you probably wouldn't understand if you don't know like the simple terminology. But I would say MongoDB is always the easiest, to be honest with you. But like I said, if you have a lot of relational data, a lot of associations, a lot of relationships, I feel like MySQL would be the way to go. Okay, I think we have a good idea of useState. So I'm gonna go ahead and practice useState a little bit more because I want to get better at it. So let's go inside maybe contact page, and we have another functional component. So let's do const age set age equals useState. What was it? The default value to 22. Oh, I see. No, I can't do that. I might need to do something else. Let's see. Try this. There we go. Now we're using arrow functions. Okay, and we need to actually reference these variables. So let's do that. Okay. Now if I render the contact page, get 22, perfect. And I can also set the age to maybe... Oh, it's constant. Whoops. Yes, I watched a lot of vids from MySQL Mongo, but the problem is remote data. Well, you can have remote data. You can just go on Heroku and use MongoDB or MySQL. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! What's going on here? What's going on here? Are we calling set age incorrectly? Okay, let's look at back at our documentation. Cospatot, gotta go. Thank you for what you were doing. Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you so much for checking out the stream. Really appreciate it. Have a good night, man. Oh, I see. It takes in a callback function. Oh, I see. So what we were doing before, I mean, we could just do this. I see. So we can't just... Oh, I get it now. Okay. And if I were to... There we go. But we can take in we can update the state based on previous state. So set age... Pre-age... And that would update the state of age, which is cool. Oh no, we're still getting that call. What's going on? Let's see, am I doing this wrong maybe? No, I found Mongo Atlas is free. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, it's saying, oh, I remember, we have to follow the rules of hooks. Use effect. Use effect. I don't think we can actually call. Oh, I see. So generally speaking, using set state inside use effect. Let me bookmark this page. This is very important. Let's bookmark that. Actually, I don't need. I have it saved. I don't need that. Okay. Let's see. Generally speaking, using set state inside use effect will create an infinite loop. So most likely that you don't want to call it. There are a couple exceptions to that rule. Use effect is called after each render when set state is used inside of it. He said, if you call set state inside use effect, it will create an infinite loop. Which doesn't make sense on why we got the infinite loop. But if you pass an empty array, so to avoid the infinite loop, you have to bind an array. Above effect will only fire once the component is rendered similar to component. No. Yeah, this is so weird. This is so weird. Oh, I see. There's something called a dependency list or a dependency in array. React hook use effect has a missing dependency age. Either include it. What do you mean? Okay, I don't know what. Yeah, that's still doing the same thing. Boy. Nope. Oh, with state. Oh. That's so weird though. Like that's such a weird effect for something to happen like that. Don't tell my boss I'm watching a code at work. I won't, man. Don't worry about that. I really gotta understand use effect. Understanding this is so important. Otherwise, I won't be able to move on. Damn. Set state is asynchronous. We passed in that, and we did the same thing. And that still created an infinite loop, which I don't know why, but it's annoying. Let's see. Here's a quick TLDR. How do I replicate component mount with use effect? Well, you can use use effect fn. It's not an exact equivalent. Unlike component mount, it capture props and state. So even inside the callbacks, you'll see the initial props and state. If you want to see the latest something, you can write it to a ref. But there's usually a simple way to structure the code so you don't have to. Keep in mind that the mental model for effects is different from component mount. Let's see. I'm trying to find their exact equivalents may confuse you more than help. To get productive, you need to think in effects, and their mental model is closer to implementing synchron. Okay. I didn't really understand what in the world that said, but I just want to get to the important stuff. Each render has its own oh wow, holy crap, there's a lot of information. Holy crap. We're gonna be here all day reading this. Let's see. Here's a counter to look at the highlighted line closely. You clicked count times. What does it mean? Does count somehow watch changes to our state and update automatically? That might be a useful first intuition when you learn React, but not an accurate mental model. In this example, count is just a number. It's not magic data binding. It watch or proxy or anything else. It's just a good number, okay? The first time our component renders, the count variable we get from useState is 0. Okay, and we call set count, recalls our component again. Oh, I see. So every single time, so this is important to note, every single time, I guess, what's the setter is set, it's going to, I guess, re-render the function, or re-render the component, I think. Does it? Yeah, it has to. That's the way how Angular works. When something updates in the model, it's going to update, it's going to re-render the entire component. It has to. So when we call set count, React calls our component again. This time count will be 1. Whenever we update the state, React calls our component. Each render result sees its own counter state value, which is with a constant. With its own counter state value, which is a constant. Okay. So this line doesn't do any special data binding. It only embeds a number value into the render output. That number is provided by React. When we set count, React calls our component again with a different count value. Then React updates the num to match our latest rendered output. Okay. The key takeaway is that the count constant. Let me actually write this down. This is important. Let's see. Let's put this inside. Yeah, use state, or not use state, but whenever we call the setter. Okay, so let's do this. Whenever setter for the state variable is called, React will re-render the components with the current updated state, if it was updated. Hopefully I got that right from what I've interpreted over here. Each render has its own event handlers. So far, so good. What about event handlers? Look at this example. So they have an example. It shows an alert with the counts after 3 seconds. Let's see. So we have constant counter. Okay. So after 3 seconds, it will say you clicked on count. Maybe if I do this sequence of steps, increment the counter to 3. Show alert. What do you expect the alert to show? Oh, I see what it's saying. So it's incrementing it 3 times, and then we're calling show alert. So it's asking, will show alert show 3, or will it show 5? Let's see. Well, let's see. Each render has its own event handler. So if it's re-rendered again, I think it will be. I think it'll be 5. I think it'll be 5. Let's see. I think it'll be 5. I could be wrong, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it gonna show 5? Oh, show 3. Okay. So let's see. It updates to 3. And then on that, okay, oh, I get it. Okay, so, oh, wait. It has one event handler. So when we alerted, it was alerting the current count. So if I did, let me refresh. If I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that set timeout is corresponding to that current render context. Okay, that makes sense. Why is this useful? Why is it useful to understand this is what I'm trying to understand. Let's see. Okay. So each render, it'll have its own value for each render. Okay. This is not specific to React. Regular functions. Yeah, that's true. Regular functions do work the same way. Okay. This is a good article. I'm going to save this as well. Okay, I think we can just skip this. Yo, no problem, man. Michael, thank you so much for checking out the stream. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you learned a lot. And thanks for chatting too. Really appreciate it. Each render has its own effects. I see, okay. According to docs, the use state hook is similar to this state, except it doesn't merge the old and new states together. The use hook returns the state and value and a function for updating that state. Variable updater function, okay. Use effect hook takes 2 arguments. A function ALS if the function or dependence change. If the function or the dependencies change, the function is called. This empty array represents an empty list of dependencies. What are those dependencies is the question. And here they're using the spreader operator to spread the books. And then they're joining with this. That makes sense. The above example introduces the use effect hook with an empty dependency list. As a result, the hook only run when the component. Okay, so we have no dependencies, do we? That is so weird. I don't get it. I am updating it, but it's not doing anything. I don't understand what the hell is going on. I gotta be doing something wrong. So every single time. Oh, I get it. Oh. Every single time age changed, it updated. Oh, okay, so const counter set counter. So what if we just left that alone? I don't get why is age a dependency though? That should not be a dependency. And that's gonna infinite loop because every single time we're calling set age, it's gonna go ahead. Oh my god. Let's try that. So if we call use effect and we pass on a callback function, and we use fetch, and we'll fetch the same API that we just did. And here, what we'll do is we'll update the data. That's the same thing we just did, but with use effect though. This time we're gonna do update posts. Okay. So I guess that's an example of how to fetch data with use effect. But what was I doing wrong though before? I was trying to update age, but why was that giving me an issue? Update post res. Okay. I was definitely doing something wrong. I just don't know. And now I don't get it. So weird. So weird. So use effect will update will run out of DOM whenever this I see. Okay, wow, that's so weird. And that's gonna cause the infinite loop. Yep. It's causing the infinite loop. Oh my god, I don't know what the hell's going on. What use effect does? It's basically it's kind of like it's a hook, and it's basically used for side effects. So, for example, if you want to update the state, that's technically a side effect. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to basically fetch data from an API with use effect. But I'm trying to understand like why it's giving me the error. But from what I've gathered, I think I kind of get it. It's because we're updating like the state, and every single time you update the state, um, it's going to re-render. I think every single time. Uh, if we don't have update posts, well, this whole use effect depends on update posts. Oh, I don't know, man. I'm trying to figure out. This is so weird, but we have to understand it. Man, Stack Overflow is good for like getting solutions to particular things, but sometimes it's like when you want just like an explanation. Oh man. Doesn't really explain much though. Like it just shows like the solution, but doesn't really explain much, which is like doesn't really help my case. I'm trying to understand like the proper way to actually use use effect, but most of these are just solutions to just one thing. Like I need like an actual explanation. Oh boy. Why do we need the dot 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 A? Well, A is not an object though. Well, this works. This works. But before it was infinitely looping, which doesn't make sense to me. Please don't make me sign in. Is this a behind the scenes of every episode? Yeah, man. This is a behind the scenes of every episode. Like, struggling right now. You guys get to see what it's like to actually, like, sit in front of a computer and figure something out for hours. Here in use effect, you can pass an array. This array clearly tells React that just call use effect when field's inme has been changed. So, are we saying call use effect? So, hold on. This is so weird. So, only use effect when update post change. But if I change it to age, this is just gonna go crazy. I have no idea. I gotta... Man, this is so weird. I'm probably just gonna watch a video on how to use effect. You guys are watching me watch a video. What do you mean it's failing to fetch? It fetched right over here. I don't know what you mean it's failing to fetch. The data is being fetched right over here. Oh, I'm not saying that it's a use effect error. I'm just trying to understand how use effect works, because right now, if I put age over here and if I update, it's still gonna fetch, right? But I get this error, and I'm trying to understand why that error is the case. And it's something with the dependency array, but I just don't know how to use effect properly, which is what I'm trying to figure out right now. The fetching is fine. Well, this error is just a key with the list. That's not really like super important to me right now. Like I could just fix that by doing p key and adding a key over here, like that. That's not an error over there. That's just I can easily fix that. See, it's gone over there. But over here, like I'm trying to understand why. Oh well, now that's gone for some reason. For some reason, not looping anymore, which is so weird. Before we, that is the weirdest stuff I've ever seen. Okay, I don't know. I honestly don't know what I just did. But if I save that, that should still be fine. Okay, yeah, now if I do age, okay, so it's saying if age is updated. Oh, okay, I think I'm starting to get this now. I think I'm starting to get this. So this use effect function. Oh, well, it was because it was calling the API like a bunch of times. I think I understand what's going on now. So I think every single time, I think I get it now. So use effect I think is called once, but if A updates, so let's say for example if age updates, it's going to keep calling it over and over again, which is why it's updating the state constantly. Okay, if I do update posts, okay, I don't know if that actually I think that actually updates the post infinitely. And I think we can kind of verify that too. Okay, no, it's not calling update post infinitely, which is good, but still weird because we are updating the post once, but I don't know. I really want to understand what's going on because, like, this is so important. Yeah, I don't know. This video itself should help though. So every single time he updates the state of the object itself. So for example, let me do this. Let me do this. I think I kind of understand it now. Okay, let's do this. What I'm gonna do is every single time I update this, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. I'm gonna add one to the age. So where are we gonna go? Oh, that's inside here. Let's create a button. And we're gonna have to declare that button. Let's do hold on, let's see. Okay, that's not what I want. I want it to depend on update posts. Okay, so if I click on that button, I want to call posts. But no, wait, I want it to... This is what I don't get, because if I call this inside here, that's fine. That works just fine. If I console log age, this is going to be just fine. That's going to be just fine. Or, not really, that didn't update for some reason. I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Because we have this dependency array over here. Is it because it's a promise? I don't know. Okay, why don't we do this? Whenever we click, I will update posts. And what I'll do is I will use the spread operator posts. And I'll add a new object. So we'll do title post something. And then with ID we'll do 4. So if I update post, this whole thing should be... Okay, apparently that's not a... Okay, I don't know. Because it's saying if this is the dependency array, so every single time the state of post is updated, that means that it should be called, but it's not calling it. I feel like I'm not understanding something, which is like throwing me off so badly. So these values, whenever they change, so it's saying that whenever these values update posts. Oh, there we go. I think I get it. So let's say, okay, let's try this. Look, if age changes, because this is fine. Okay, now let me update age. Set age. Why is that calling alert? Oh, let's submit. Hold on. Oh, I get it now. I get it now. Okay, I get it now. Can you watch your own live stream? Yeah, sure, why not? Here. I'm watching my own live stream right now. Let me unmute. How wonderful. Okay, yeah, I think I finally understand how use effect works. That video helps so much. I don't know why, like, some of these articles are just so misleading in so many ways. I don't know. But that video helped a lot, though. I'm gonna continue watching the rest of this video. I'm gonna, like, this... This guy's really good at React. Like, he makes a lot of videos on React. He's really good at React. Ben Awad. Alright, anyways, I think I'm gonna get off and eat dinner. It's 8:33 p.m. right now, so yeah, thank you guys so much for checking out the stream, watching me learn React. Hopefully you guys were able to learn some stuff too. Tried my best, but you know, we were able to make a lot of progress. I finally understand the use effect hook, and I just gotta practice a little bit more. I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow, as well as for the rest of this week. I'll be streaming from 5 to 8 o'clock, so feel free to check, you know, back in tomorrow at 5 p.m. We'll be streaming. Okay, the whole point is we need to understand React, learn React, and once we get the better hang of how React works, we're going to learn. We're not going to learn. We're going to apply our skills and build like a dashboard. So we were able to accomplish a lot. Okay, with this whole, you know, with this whole start out. The whole point of this, you know, bootcamp is to learn React. So yeah. But yeah, feel free to tune in tomorrow. Okay, feel free to tune in tomorrow. We're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be learning React. You guys get to see me struggle some more with, you know, understanding how React works and everything. It's going to be lots of fun, man. But, you know, I'm willing to learn all this stuff and teach you guys as much as I can. And in the future, I will definitely be making more videos on React. It's just I want to learn it the right way. And live stream myself doing it will enable me to actually learn it. And also help you guys out too. So, once again, thank you guys so much for checking out the stream. Rian Gu, Shadow Chen, thank you guys for checking out the stream. Really appreciate it. Again, feel free to join my Discord server. Okay, feel free to join it. The link is in the description. Okay. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next stream, next video. Peace out, guys.